time for the ride home in ENC.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
This is your 5 o'clock drive with Patrick Johnson.
Holy mackerel!
More news, more interviews, more ECU stories than you can shake a stick at. Hey, stop shaking that stick. This is the Patrick Johnson Show.
Pirates win! Pirates win!
On 94.3 The Game.
Welcome in, everybody. TGIF Friday. We made it as the Football Friday edition of the Patrick Johnson Show. Thank God it is Friday. Thankfully. Patrick Johnson, Philip the Ref Pilkington. I mean, there's just never a dull moment. It never ends. It never ends. We have a great show for you today. There is a new book about the NFL, and, you know, it certainly has always been a huge deal, but in the last 25 to 30 years, maybe 35 years, I would say the last 30 years for sure, it has become the cultural touchstone of society, or a cultural touchstone of society. And there's a new book. Ken Belson is the author, and we're going to have him on to talk about that coming up. I think it's a fascinating topic. We'll talk some college football and NFL today, maybe give you our picks and our top 5 coming up of what we think the games of the week may be. I know Pilk will be at one of them.
I don't know if that'll be one of the games of the week, but I'll be there.
I think that's actually intriguing. That has become more interesting all of a sudden. You're giving it short shrift. Panthers are playing well enough right now, and you know the Bills have not been unbeatable. But you're stealing a little of my thunder.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So we got that, and then Brittany Hoyt, who is the analyst for ECU volleyball and ECU women's basketball for ESPN Plus. Tonight, for the second time, she'll be doing play-by-play. I was scheduled to be at the volleyball tonight, but I got called into some football down over in the Triangle for
going to the bullpen.
Called me in. And so anyway, I'm headed to that. I'll work with Jason Alder, Madison Little. That will be a crew that will be working together on some of the ESPN Plus telecasts for Pirate basketball this season. So that'll be fun. Reunite with those folks for a couple weeks. And so it'll be Brittany tonight along with Juliana Askew, the former Pirate setter, making her broadcast debut tonight. And Juliana and I, next Saturday, are calling state championship games in Raleigh for volleyball. So it's a busy time. 'Tis the season. It all begins next week. The other thing I was going to say is we've got Rose football tonight. Dylan Johnson and Walt Pollard will be at New Bern sitting in the stands because Yahoo's put the visiting radio out in the stands there at New Bern, like it's Hazard County. And so good luck to those guys.
Now we just need the narrator in Hazard County.
Yeah.
Bo and Luke.
God, I mean, it's... In a way, I'm glad. I went out seeking television, so I didn't have to go do that game and sit out in the stands. And they're too old and fat to be sitting out in the stands and calling a game. All right. Pilk, anything that we need to... I guess we're going to cover some stuff at the top 5 here, but is there anything we need to know or what have you going into the weekend that you that stands out for you,
our guy Tommy Bass, Edenton tonight on 103.7.
Kick his ass, Tommy Bass.
6:55, and Havelock is on a bye, so you'll be at your normal oldies music programming over on the oldie station.
No,
other than that,
you'll be getting Carolina exhibition basketball coming up.
That's right. I forgot about that. Some big exhibition games tonight, man. Kentucky's playing Purdue. That's a top 10 matchup in an exhibition. It's called preseason,
interesting
baby.
To me in these preseason or exhibition games, whatever they're calling them, is they're actually playing people, but they would never dare do this in the regular season.
No.
It's going to be interesting to see where all this goes in the future.
Some of these teams would.
Not a lot of them.
Hey, Duke's got a pretty tough out-of-conference this year. I know they didn't under K. Everybody used to bag on them. That out-of-conference slate ain't easy. They got Tennessee as their final exhibition game on Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this. Shire isn't messing around. He challenges them.
He does.
In the preseason, pre-conference season. All right, let's do the top 5, shall we?
This may very well be our last mission. Let's make it count.
This is the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
It's impossible.
Now some stories you may have heard.
You ready?
Or catch it for the first time. This is your 5 at 5 with the P-Man.
Number one, East Carolina, busy time of the year. Even though there's no football, there is women's volleyball tonight, as we mentioned, against South Florida. That'll be 6 o'clock on ESPN Plus, and admission is free all season long to volleyball matches. Also, the soccer team is out in the great state of Texas. They got a 1-1 draw last night against Rice. They will take on UTSA on Sunday. Yesterday was Women's Basketball Media Day. 10 new faces come to the women's basketball program under Coach Kim McNeil, and she was asked at her press conference what qualities she looked for in the young ladies in which she was recruiting, both at the high school level and at the transfer portal.
Yeah, well, for us, obviously we are definitely a defensive-minded team, but we felt the last couple of years that, we need to put more points on the board. So we wanted to get kids that, wanted to do it on both sides of the floor, that wanted to defend and also could, shoot the ball. I think this year, at any point, we'll have at least 3 or 4 kids on the floor that you got to respect from the three-point line. We have not had that in the past. Savannah Brooks is shooting the ball extremely well. Taylor, as soon as she walks on the floor, she's in her range. Kennedy is shooting the ball better than I thought she shot at Arizona State. Jayla has had a really good offseason. She's shooting the ball extremely well. Olivia Hillard, another freshman, can shoot the ball. Anjanae Hutton is shooting the ball well from the 3. Kiana can shoot the 3. So, we've got a lot of different weapons on the floor, and I've probably missed some. But I think this year, I don't know. I think early in the season, people are going to sag off on us because that's what we've been known for in the past. But I think very quickly they're going to realize they got to step up on us and guard us from the three-point line, and then that's going to open up the paint and open up driving lanes for us.
All right, women's basketball opened the regular season a week from Monday. I think it'll be interesting there. What is life after my like? And I just have a feeling life after my from a harmonious standpoint might be maybe a little better. We'll see. I think there were real problems the last 2 years. And this is not to say somebody's a bad person, but My had these inexplicable outbursts while playing games. Now, Kim Mulkey, that won't matter. Too much talent there. You're not going to get off. If you're not locked in and bought in Baton Rouge, if you're you're going to be a spectator.
Yeah, I'm with you.
East Carolina didn't quite have that luxury, although Kim McNeil went to that sometimes over the last 2 seasons. And then one word on volleyball. Sydney Buchanan, terrible injury in their win against Charlotte. I don't know if there's any official word on this yet, but it's the type of injury it appears, if it is what it appears to be, that she would be out for the season. So they've got 3 injuries that have been kind of like season enders. Believed to be.
Yeah.
I don't think anything official on a couple of them, but obviously.
And then you started this season with one out.
Right, Angelez out. And then, Ellie Pate might be back by the end of the season, but that's not a guarantee. This injury to the young freshman Buchanan is obviously one that is going to be really, really tough. And, then they had a setter or a defensive player, defensive specialist, libero, who had been out with concussion protocol. So, it's just been a brutal year, and it was great to get that win against Charlotte because of the in-conference rivalry factor and that kind of thing. And Charlotte actually been playing pretty well. But tonight against the top team in the American USF, who is probably, if they did not win the conference tournament based on their non-conference schedule, would get into the NCAAs and is really, really good. They're a top 25 caliber kind of team. This is going to be a different kettle of fish tonight, as they say. All right.
Number 2.
Brittany Hoyt will have more on that with Pilkington later in the show.
Patrick, I'm glad you brought up South Florida, because we're going to talk a little bit about them in story number 2. Their women's basketball coach, Jose Fernandez, has left the program after 25 years to go to the WNBA. They have promoted his lead assistant to head coach. And normally you would say, hey, that's how the schedule works, right? The WNBA season ends right around the time college basketball is starting. When you poach a college coach, this is how it works. Well, not in the era of the transfer portal. It's not as it used to be. Players, when a coach leaves, have 30 days to enter the transfer portal, which means we're only now 10 days till the season starts. It was 11 days when it happened. Every player at South Florida could enter the transfer portal, and they could literally have no one on the roster and have to forfeit every game for the entire rest of the season if all their players jump in the portal.
Yeah, I don't think that's likely. But
I don't either, but shows you how stupid these rules are.
Yeah, they could. Quick shout-out USF broadcaster Jim Lauk, however it's pronounced. I met Jim a couple times. Nice guy, longtime voice of the Bulls, announced he's going to retire after the season. So good for him. 43 years, a long time to be calling USF athletics.
Yeah.
So here's what I would say about this. Whoever the coach they've hired in the... Is it a permanent or is it an interim? Have they said?
I think it's an interim as of now. Yeah.
That person is the luckiest person in America because that's a pretty good roster.
Yeah.
But by virtue of them having a pretty good roster, don't you think there's some seedy SEC coaches that are lingering around right now?
Yeah.
Or others that are saying, ooh, all of a sudden we've gone through the preseason and we're lacking in this area. Well, look who could be getting in the portal. You know there's back channel stuff going on.
Oh, 100%.
They'll have a player or two leave. They will.
They will. At least it was the lead assistant, though, so I'm sure there was some sort of relationship with this coach. And I'm sure I'm hoping the girls weren't completely kept in the dark on this, so it didn't just blindside them, so who knows.
Relationships are only as good as the money.
3.
Remember that, Pilk.
3, yeah, it's true. We will segue back to Pirate Athletics in a roundabout way here on number 3. Game 1 of the World Series tonight. It was announced yesterday afternoon. Trey Savage will start Game 1 of the World Series. Yeah, the guy who was in low A back in April is starting Game 1 of the World Series tonight against the Dodgers.
This is what Trey had to say.
With this being my rookie season and having these high pressure games, I try to treat it as if it's not as high pressure as it is mentally.
All right, well, look, this is going to be considered sacrilege around these parts. And he's had a great year. He's had a very good postseason. He started the year in A-ball.
Yeah.
And now he's starting Game 1 of the World Series. That seems like a really tough spot to put somebody in that 18 months ago was here in Greenville. Or
I agree.
It could have been anywhere. It could have been on Mars. But
yeah.
Just for a person who started the year in A-ball in the minors to be your Game 1 starter, ooh, that seemed, and especially against Snell.
Yeah.
Who might be the best starter right now in baseball, at least for the last, back half of Snell's unflappable.
Yeah, him and Skeens.
There's not going to be a situation where you put Snell, and it's kind of interesting. They're starting Snell because they know it's going to be a hostile, amped up environment.
Yeah.
And I'll guarantee you his heart rate will be at a resting level the whole time.
Yeah.
There won't be any nerves on his part. Would you have, if you gone out to L.A. where it had been a hostile environment from at least the aspect of being on the road, would you have put your Savage out there on the hill? And what this sort of tells me is your Savage could get a start in L.A.
Yeah, Game 5. It would kind of be suited up for him to go again. So I don't think you probably start him on the road, Patrick. And here's where I think their mindset is. And I'm playing devil's advocate on your other comment because I do agree. He was a college baseball player 18 months ago and a low-A baseball player 6 months ago. I wonder if they think, him and Guzman have a lot of similarities. Fastball sinker. They kind of have the same arsenal. So whoever is the second of those two is going to be a little bit at a disadvantage where the Dodger lineup will have kind of already seen them, kind of like what we saw last series against the Mariners.
The
So
Dodger lineup that can rake, too.
it is. So are they trying to say, we're going to throw Guzman in the tougher situation where they've seen a guy like him as opposed to the 22-year-old? I don't know. That's the thing. That's just me playing devil's advocate.
You know what that is? That is astute observation on your part.
I appreciate it.
That's what that is.
444.
Number 4, we're going to talk a little bit about the NBA and handcuffs all at the same time. As everybody, I'm sure, has heard, unless you've been living on Mars for the last 36 hours, Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, and former player Damon Jones have all been arrested for some inside gambling knowledge they were giving out to people about players who may be resting or players who may not play as many minutes so that they could make prop bets. And it's being said that tens of millions of dollars were won on these bets. Also, Chauncey Billups has been linked not only to this, but to some inside rigged poker games that have to deal with the Italian-American mafia in New York.
So let's start with, and I've not heard this. This was a call from a listener today in the morning show. And they were saying that Screamin' A.
I'm incredibly familiar with North Carolina. North Carolina.
He was saying that this is Trump just parading this out because it's guys in the NBA. The feds didn't do this when Tim Donaghy was, in trouble for what he was. Okay. That's ridiculous because Stephen A. is not a serious person despite his efforts and others' efforts to try to present him as such. He's not a serious person. He's successful, but also society's pretty dumb. To the meat of the matter at hand. The Chauncey Billups thing is fascinating. I watched a clip earlier today from Aaron Katursky with ABC News. I guess he was, ABC obviously is owned by Disney, as is ESPN, so he was on the NBA show that they do yesterday. He had this incredibly detailed report of the Mafia poker games where Billups and Jones and others would be kind of like the face of the game and the attraction piece for people that wanted to play in these games to kind of rub elbows with celebrities, athletes. Well, Billups was one of those. The links that the reporter described that they would go to, special glasses, special contact lenses,
special table,
a table that you could see the cards, see through the tabletop and see the cards as they were turned down underneath, somebody running the game from a different location, I guess communicating with people in earpieces, and card counting machines that had been tampered with. These were the poker games were fixed.
Yeah.
And so you could not win if you participated in one of these. And then obviously there were measures taken by the mafia because they're the mafia, where if you could not pay or refuse to pay, you were coerced into it, let's say.
Yeah.
So that's the Chauncey Billups thing. Now, there's also, remember when Gilbert Arenas got busted for something?
Yeah.
Kind of similar to that, right?
Yeah.
You think Gilbert maybe squealed? You think he
Hey, man.
states?
Little McCarthyism there?
Well, I mean,
For lack of a better comparison, I don't know his first thing that came to mind.
And then this issue with the sports betting thing. So what was it, the Indiana baseball coach or the Cincinnati there was a baseball coach that got in trouble a couple of years ago. Maybe it was last season. I want to say it was the year before, and it was a betting deal on college baseball. You remember what
I do remember that, yeah.
Not all the detail, but it was, well, in that case, the sports books caught the unusual activity.
Yeah.
From what I understand, and this is what Brian Windhorst had reported yesterday on ESPN, that the sports books caught the unusual activity on the Terry Rozier bet when he was with the Hornets.
Yeah.
And apparently reported it to the NBA. So the NBA has known about this, according to Windhorst, however you pronounce the old boy's name. The association has known about this since spring a year ago and have kind of sat on it.
Not going to look good for Mr. Silver.
No, this looks terrible for Adam. If that Windhorst report is accurate, this looks really, really bad for Adam Silver.
Who is one of my favorite commissioners, probably my favorite out of the four.
He's all right. He's a little bit of a hollow suit in some respects.
Better than Manfred and Goodell.
We're going to hear more about Roger Goodell coming up. Your perspective may change on Robert Goodell after we talk to this author. It may not.
We got about 2 minutes before we need to call Ken, too.
Manfred. Rob, I don't agree a lot with things Adam Gold said or says. I probably do more than I used to. But as Gold says about Rob Manfred, he hates his sport.
Yeah.
He hates it.
Him and Joey Football. Joey Football always preaches that. Manfred hates baseball.
He does.
All righty.
This could be huge, Pilkington. You get the sense, while this is a big deal, especially with a sitting NBA coach, a Hall of Famer, and Billups,
yeah,
there is a lot more to come on this thing.
Yeah. No, I think so. This could be bad, but we got about a minute left. We got to call Ken, so I'm not trying to rush you out of this. All right, number 5, our favorite college basketball and football, college football and NFL football games for the week. You got one, Patrick?
I think UCLA, Indiana could be interesting tomorrow just because UCLA's been playing better. I'm anxious to see how much Virginia beats North Carolina by. Can Memphis look? It was all set up for Memphis and South Florida to be an important game tomorrow. I guess it still is.
That's my pick, and it's because it's the East Carolina tie. But look, man, with Lewis going down, what does that mean? Is Memphis still legit? Are they still a title contender? Because if they're not, if they look bad on offense, East Carolina's chances winning out just got a heck of a lot higher.
Memphis Vandy is, or Missouri Vandy.
Missouri Vandy.
Interesting. Yep. All right, let us hit a break. When we come back, the author of a book that is just out on how the NFL has grown into this cultural touchstone, a juggernaut. And we'll discuss that next on the Patrick Johnson Show.
Listen up. He's talking now.
Sorry, thought we were vibing.
The Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Let's go now to the guest line where Ken Belson, author of the book Everyday Sunday, has joined us here. We were just talking to Ken, longtime New York Times NFL reporter, business reporter as well. And interestingly enough, Ken, you were kind of asking me about my favorite team and all that because you were rubbing in the Super Bowl defeat to the Peyton Manning-led Broncos to Pilkington's Panthers. And I've said this many times on the show and other shows, I don't have an NFL team that I root for, per se. And, I love watching the NFL. I love keeping up with the NFL. I love NFL radio. All of that. It's fascinating to me. But I don't have that team that I live and die with necessarily. Now, I'll root for teams or players in the course of the season or like to see a good story. I love seeing Brady win a 7th Super Bowl, although I never rooted for him in New England. But I thought it was cool that he won in Tampa. It would dawn on me, Ken, that I'm maybe somebody that the topic of your book has had some influence on because even though I don't have a team, the NFL is a huge part of kind of my consuming.
Mm-hmm.
Am I onto something there, or am I just flapping my gums, Ken? Tell me.
Well, you're flapping your gums and you're flattering me, right? Because you hit the sweet spot of my book there. But no, I mean, look, you cannot deny it's a business. I sat in a room with Larry Fitzgerald, the wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals, a bunch of years ago. This is like 15 years ago. And we were talking about the NFL, And I said, it's a tremendous business. He said, no, it's a sport. I said, come on, Larry, it's a business. And then he finally looked at me. All right, it's a business. Roger Goodell and the owners have been stewards of this business. It's gotten more and more sophisticated. There's a quote in the book from a former colleague of Roger Goodell's. He says, Roger doesn't see the other leagues as competition. The NBA, Major League Baseball, so forth. He sees, or he wants the NFL to be seen in the same light as Disney and the Vatican. He wants it to be a family-friendly media company that happens to be a cultural institution. And that's where his mind is. That's where the owners' minds are. That's why you're seeing the NFL spread into all sorts of programming that maybe was sort of counterintuitive years ago. The documentaries about the owners, Jerry Jones most recently, on Netflix, the Hard Knocks series, and of course spreading overseas internationally, and even the growth of flag football, which is about getting girls involved in a sport that's traditionally been a boys' sport. So they've been very deliberate and clever about how to kind of spread the religion, if you will, of football, and they realized that they could not have just continued as they did back in the 70s or 80s.
My youngest nephew, who is 7, participates in the NFL play flag football league in his community. He's on the Bucks. Loves it. And you know what they provide, Larry? Ken? They provide uniform. I mean, like, he's got a Bucks kids jersey and socks. Mm-hmm. He thinks it's the coolest thing ever. But I mean, it's legitimate because the NFL provides all that. And that's just one community, small community here in North Carolina. I mean, it's really amazing. So, obviously, we know who the players are you've mentioned, or you kind of discuss in the subtitle of the book, Jerry Jones, although I think Jerry's doc was a passion or kind of an ego stroke project. Robert Kraft and then Goodell. How would you divide the the credit and the roles that those three provided in what the NFL is today?
Yeah, I've often been asked about, well, what about Art Rooney in Pittsburgh or John Mara in New York and Clark Hunt in Kansas City? And of course, they've all played key roles. But then if I added them in the subtitle, we'd still be reading it. So I really had to pick 3, that sort of rule of 3. It's kind of a good number. And it wasn't hard to pick Jerry and Robert as the 2 owners that have done the most. They both bought their teams at record prices. Both of those teams at that time were losing tremendous amounts of money. The Patriots in particular were always the last in the league, hadn't been very successful either on the field. So, and they went into debt to buy their teams. And so they were very hungry. Those 2 owners, both entrepreneurs before they got there, they were very hungry to make money. And of course, Jerry did that by selling sweets. And as he said, sticking that Cowboys peanut butter on everything and marketing the heck out of the team. And then Robert, also with the new stadium in Foxborough in 2001, that's all well and good. But really what distinguishes them from the other owners, by and large, is how involved they got in the league business and seeing that lifting all boats, And so in particular in the media sphere, Jerry was the guy who brought Rupert Murdoch to the NFL and made him the 4th bidder for the 3 packages that existed. And that blew up the model. It used to be a cozy media club with NBC, CBS, ABC, and suddenly you introduced a 4th player who was also very hungry at that time. And Robert had his own connections. He was a part owner of a CBS affiliate in Boston before he became an owner. So he knew the CEO and the other bigwigs at CBS. And so both of them really have developed. They were very involved in the media negotiations, and frankly, that's where their bread is buttered. It's, a good half of their revenue comes from TV contracts.
Yeah. Ken Belson, author of the book Every Day is Sunday, How Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft, and Roger Goodell Turned the NFL into a Cultural Economic Juggernaut. The jury is always kind of out on Goodell in a lot of ways. He takes a lot of criticism, as you would expect the owner of the biggest sports league in America to do, and someone that maybe is out there in some cases more than The only other commissioner I would think that would be out there, the NBA commissioner tends to do a lot of media, but Goodell does quite
Adam
a bit.
Stern.
Adam Silver.
I'm sorry, Adam Silver. No.
Yeah, and Goodell probably would do the second most. I'm guessing. He's been at it a while. He's been at it a good while. What is Goodell's role in all this? Did he just kind of willingly go along, or has he had his own influence and his own ideas, or is he just executing what the owners tell him? As is often what our colleagues in the media say, that's all he's doing is being a puppet for ownership.
Well, I will say, I mean, I've covered all the leagues over the years, and so I interviewed Gary Bettman and Adam Silver, and before him, David Stern, and
I think that's fantastic. By the way, for the hand he's dealt, I think he's actually done a really good job.
Yeah, he's often maligned, particularly by Canadian fans who don't like his expansion strategies. But be that as it may, what I think stands out about the NFL is it's much more of an owner-driven league. And you've got 32 owners. This has been historical. This is not a new thing. It's certainly not Goodell's thing. It has been steered and led by the owners. It's not that the commissioners are weak. It's just that the power doesn't derive from the commissioners. And Roger Goodell is very much a manifestation of that. He got into that position as commissioner by being kind of a COO, kind of a fix-it guy. When the teams needed new stadiums, they would send Roger Goodell to City Hall to lobby, because the owner didn't want to be seen asking for public money. So Roger was a fix-it guy. And then by the time Tagliabue retired in 2006, Roger had done favors for a lot of the owners. So really that's how their decision-making goes. And there's a nice quote in the book about how Roger is not a CEO-type leader, a top-down guy who sets an agenda per se. He's more like a Senate majority leader. He's always counting votes. There's 24 votes out of 32 to pass any big change in the NFL. And so he's always trying to get to 75%, preferably 95%. And so there are different factions among the owners, as you can imagine. Some want to go slow, some want to go fast. Some have pet projects, international, for instance, or gambling. And Roger doesn't necessarily set the agenda. He kind of steers the room a little bit and tries to get the group to coalesce around a vote. So it's a different skill set. As you said, he's the guy who takes the slings and arrows. People boo him on the draft night. He's up there suspending players. And that's all accurate, but he's not necessarily the one setting the agenda when it comes to league business.
Great to have Kim Belson with us here. The book, Every Day is Sunday. It's interesting to me that in the ever-evolving world of media rights and streaming platforms, which the NFL certainly has their presence in, they have maintained kind of an old-school, traditional way of doing things with the networks. Now all four of the major networks. ABC gets in on the ESPN deal, and then the Westwood One deal, which has been, for radio years and years and years. And, we're told all the time radio is dying, and it's not, but it's a debate for another time. So it's fascinating to me from that standpoint. But I do wonder how long can those traditional media sources continue to pay this money for the rights?
Yeah, it's a great question, and the NFL is very aware of this. Part of the key to the NFL's success over the years has been it's what they call their reach. They have kept their games on traditional broadcast television, CBS, NBC, and so forth, for all these decades, when many other sports, including hockey and basketball and baseball, went towards cable TV, which was regional networks. RSNs is all about a regional sports TV channel. And so the NFL's sort of insistence on remaining a national league has really paid dividends. And in average, we're on Wednesday now, so tomorrow night there'll be a Thursday night game. They'll get 17 to 20 million fans. A World Series game won't get 10 million fans. So it's just a difference in scale. accessibility. You mentioned you're not a particular fan of a team, and yet you probably know lots of teams and players, whereas hockey and other sports are more regional. So that's been one of their successes. Having said all that, the CBSs and Foxes of the world are not as powerful as they used to be, either in market capitalization or even in their advertising. So the NFL is very aware that Amazon is hankering for more coverage. Netflix, YouTube now has the Sunday Ticket. And so they're trying to maintain a balance between these new streaming options and the traditional broadcasters. And they don't want to bleed them dry because that doesn't help anybody. I would say Robert Kraft is very much influential here. He wants to leave, if you will, and then, let's set aside the numbers, but he wants to leave some money on the table. We can't bankrupt Fox just to win a new TV deal, because Fox also has to be in NASCAR and other sports. NBC just got back into basketball. So, there's a real balancing act going on about how to maximize revenue while keeping your partners healthy.
The opposite of what college football is trying to do.
Oh my, that's a whole other conversation. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Unreal. Ken Belson here. So what prompted you, what about your coverage of the league and of these principal characters prompted you, outside of the Larry Fitzgerald conversation, to go in this direction with the book?
You mean to write the book, or?
Yeah, to write the book, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've covered the league now for about a dozen years. And, you get to this point, as you know, with any story, and certainly any newspaper story, probably only 10% of what I collect for a story gets in the newspaper. And I just had so much material, behind-the-scenes conversations, observations, coverage, things that just never made it to print. So I had notebooks and notebooks of material. And I had a conversation with a couple of people, and you and I cover this for our day job, but you realize that you know a heck of a lot more than the average person. And I was fascinated with the idea that the NFL is so popular, and yet I know we're saying it's big. It's not that big. It's $23 billion in revenue. So, that's the same as Kraft Foods, Marriott Hotels. But if you ask the average person how big the NFL was, they'd say it's like Walmart. And so there's this disconnect between the actual growth, which is very good, don't get me wrong, and people's mind share. It occupies a huge part of American media and popular culture. So it's that dichotomy that kind of prompted me to want to pull back the curtain a bit and just ask the question, how did we get here? Who did all this? Yeah. And so really that was the motivation for the book. And sounds simpler when you say it that way, because I had to work on it for a couple of years. But really those were the bigger questions I was trying to answer.
Sure. Last thing, gambling has also become such a big part of sports. Who'd have thunk that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, what have you? Do you talk about that kind of relationship with sports gambling in the book, and whether you do or don't, just would love to get your perspective on how that's been embraced.
Sure. Well, the NFL, like all the big leagues, were opposed to illegal sports gambling until the Supreme Court overturned the Professional Sports Gambling Act in 2018, and they had this sort of pious streak that there was a risk to the integrity of the game, and yet, everybody knows that there's gambling, maybe off-book gambling, and of course in Las Vegas. So once the law was overturned, the floodgates opened, and you can't pin this all on the NFL, because the other leagues have jumped in as well with sponsorships from MGM and Caesars, and then of course they're selling their data to the sports books. That's actually how they make most of their money, is same-day data that powers the betting apps. I point you to one anecdote that's in the book. In 2016, the three principal characters here, Roger Goodell, Jerry Jones, and Robert Kraft, went to Las Vegas. and they met with public officials there. This was before the Raiders had been approved. And they had lunch with some bigwigs, Steve Wynn from the casino, his own casino, and then the county commissioner and so forth. And the county commissioner told me later on, he said, you know what struck me about that lunch? They never seemed concerned about gambling. And this was almost 2 years before that Supreme Court decision. They only wanted to know, can Las Vegas sustain an NFL team?
Yeah.
And that told me, that they knew this was eventually going to be overturned and gambling would be a Wild West thing, and they were preparing for it. So they're smart businessmen. They saw where this was going. To them, it wasn't a church and state issue, although they had to say it was. And frankly, look, the NFL is the most gambled on product. So it was going to come to them one way or the other.
Ken Belson, the author of the book, Every Day is Sunday, available now at Amazon, wherever books are sold. Fascinating. Ken, great to speak to you. Thanks for being on the program.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
And now, the stunning conclusion.
Why is everyone screaming?
On 94.3 The Game.
Welcome into the final segment here of the Patrick Johnson Show. Philip Pilkington taking you the rest of the way home. Patrick is on his way to his TV gig for the night. Patrick, a man of many talents and many different airways. So we are taking you up to 6 o'clock, and it's still kind of a busy weekend in Pirate Athletics, busy time of the year, even though there's no football. Pirate Volleyball will be in action tonight against first place South Florida. The Bulls are 7-1 in league play right now. Pirates coming off that big win over Charlotte. Also, ECU Women's Basketball Media Day, as we told you earlier in the show, was yesterday. And right before Basketball Media Day, I caught up with Brittany Hoyt, who does the color commentary for both women's basketball and volleyball. She'll be on the call for the season opener against Wilmington on November the 3rd. She will also be on the call tonight against the South Florida Bulls on the volleyball side of things. So here's that interview that I did yesterday with Brittany Hoyt. Here we go. I'm alongside Brittany Hoyt. And Brittany, we're going to start with the volleyball side of things. Obviously, a big game tonight against first place South Florida. They're 7-1 in league play, tied with two other teams. And for Adler Augustine's team, it's been a tough year. They're a good team if they had all 12 players, but the season started with injuries, and it's just continuing to get worse.
Yeah, we're talking last year, preseason player of the year, Angel is already out last year, and then coming into this season, her not having her back, and then losing their best player, Ellie Pate. That has been a huge loss for them, big vacancy. And then again last night, another injury. So it has just been, honestly, a journey of setbacks for them. It definitely has not been this season that they set out for. But wow, last night, so much fight and endurance and grit that their team showed to pull off a victory of, honestly, a top-ranked Charlotte team.
And they're 3-1 at home on the season, which is really good. Could look crazy. They've only played 4 games. Yeah. Obviously, they only had one out-of-conference home game. That came against Wake Forest back in September. So they get in a team tied at first place in the South Florida Bulls. They've seen South Florida. It was the first away conference weekend of the season. They went down to Sunshine State. Unfortunately, lost both of those matches to FAU and to USF. So is there anything they can take away from the way they played against South Florida the first time, or because their own roster looks so much different, is it kind of tough?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is anything's possible. This conference is tough. The margins are really small with this conference. And I think the biggest thing is that anyone can win on any given night. So South Florida coming in, I think East Carolina is tough at home. So you've got to put, honestly, your some confidence there. I mean, last night, them taking one from Charlotte was phenomenal. So going into tomorrow night, honestly, they just got to play East Carolina volleyball. They honestly have to unify and honestly just give their best against a really good 7-1 Charlotte team.
Yeah, and hopefully they can do that. Hopefully all the fans can make it out tonight. Admission is free all season long to Pirate Volleyball, and the amount of home matches is ticking down as the season does come to an end. Obviously, Coach Augustine, he's had a lot of success. They've had postseason play each of the last 2 years, even past the conference tournament. That's looking more and more like not going to be a three-peat this year, unfortunately, but there's still the conference tournament. There's still a chance to get into that. What do you think East Carolina has to do down the stretch in order to make it their way to the conference tournament? And they're probably going to have to win it, unfortunately, to make anything post that.
Absolutely. So the top 8 make it to the conference tournament. I think the big thing for them is they're going to have to take some off of some of these tops. Like, they're going to have to take one from a South Florida tonight. They're going to have to take one from a Rice, at Tulsa, things of that nature. So It's possible. It's very possible, and you can always count on a conference tournament run through, right? Being able to win out to get to the NCAA. So it's going to be tough. The road is a little uphill, but anything's possible.
It is, and we've seen teams do it, of course, across all sports, whether it's something like men's basketball. You think of Oregon State a few years ago in the Pac-12, one of the last years of the Pac-12, they were at the bottom. They make their run. They end up the 12th seed. It's happened all across other sports as well. So now let's shift gears to basketball. East Carolina basketball begins on Monday, November the 3rd. You'll be on the call for that against UNC Wilmington inside Williams Arena, Minges Coliseum. It looks like it's going to be a fun year for Kim McNeil's team. However, 10 new faces this year. That's a lot, but hey, that's college athletics in 2025.
It is. That's the name of the game, and I think they're excited about this group. I think Kim McNeil is really backing behind the message of reclaim their ECU basketball identity. She's all about family, academics, and basketball. But the biggest thing is I think this group has a fight and will to win. And that's unstoppable, right? So when you put those correct ingredients together, and that's what you have to do in this day and age, is put the correct ingredients together and find the best recipe for success. So 10 new faces, 5 freshmen, 5 transfers, 3 returners, and 3 really gritty returners that are a huge piece of the puzzle. So I think she's got some really great pieces.
She does, and what I like about these 3 returners, they're all upperclassmen. Obviously, only the second year in this program for Ajane Hutton. Yeah, I know, I was close.
Yeah.
And then obviously Jayla Herp and Bobby Smith, they've each been here for 4 years. Herp, this will be her junior year, I think, of eligibility, because she had the injury 2 years ago, or I guess it was 3 years ago. It kept her out 2 years ago. She was still kind of trying to find her way back. They say it takes 2 years to recover from any of those bad ligament injuries. So she's back. Bobby Smith, very much a leader, and we mentioned Ajane. So I like that the returners also have been in the Pirate program for a lot of years. I mean, that's a total of, I believe, 10 years of experience in a Pirate uniform.
I love each of those. I mean, I think even Hutton coming in last year as a transfer brought in a lot of experience, but she just brought a lot of fight in as well. Jayla Herp, gosh, I mean, I even remember her freshman year. Obviously, she won the championship. She knows what it takes to win a championship. So she has what it takes. And then Bobby, I think Bobby is a lifer. I think Bobby will do the little things. I think she is honestly just a great influence on the rest. Sweet girl. So I think she's a great, I think those are really good people that can honestly lead the way for all these newcomers.
Yeah, now I do have one question that's directed to you. You do a lot of the color commentary for women's basketball. You get to deal with Evan, you get to deal with Patrick. And now since Patrick has already dipped off the show, who's better, Evan or Patrick?
Oh my goodness!
The
Since
correct
Patrick is
answer
setting
is
this
Evan.
up,
No, the correct answer is Evan.
Patrick.
Oh, no, the correct answer was Evan. Come on, it's never Patrick. We always bag on Patrick on this show when he's not here. So I was hoping you were going to.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm sorry, I set you up and put you on the spot.
You did.
But
you did.
no, anytime we get a chance to bag, we love you, Patrick.
Yes,
anytime we get a
we
chance to bag on you, we've got to do it. So, Brittany, thank you for your time and best of luck this season. We're looking forward to watching you on TV.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
That was our earlier interview with Brittany Hoyt, which we did yesterday, just before ECU Women's Basketball Media Day. That will do it for our show here on this Friday. We want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Brittany Hoyt. Thank you to the P-Man, and best of luck, P-Man, with your TV gig tonight. Thank you to Ken Burleson for his time. That was a great interview we had with him talking about his new book. And tune in on Monday. We'll be live from Tiebreakers right before Inside Pirate Athletics with Jim Zoki. That will do it for the Friday edition of the Patrick Johnson Show. Have a great weekend, Pirate Nation.